you today is going to potentially annoy you and also is going to make you think, not sure that's the case, okay? For those that have gone through the 7th wave training, that have been here during those sessions, that went through the particular training on unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and unconscious competence, I will refer that to driving. When you first learn to drive, you think you can drive. If you speak to anybody who hasn't got a license and you tell them, can you drive? They go, I can drive, but I just haven't got a license, right? That they think they're unconsciously competent. They are actually, consciously competent, but they are actually unconsciously incompetent. They cannot drive because when you sit behind that car, you're like, fuck, don't know what I'm doing. Right? And that's exactly the same as how I was really confident I could drive really simply, thought I wouldn't need to have any lessons. You know, there's a story behind it, but I've been driving since I was like 11 in the fields, right? And then I sat in the car and I was like, bear in mind I could change a gear, I could do whatever, and I just sat there and I was like, I've got no fucking idea because I knew it was on the road and it wasn't in a field and I could hit things other than sheep and bales, okay? So that level of unconscious incompetence, okay? What I'm going to do is compare you at the moment to the Shrek firms and the role that they play in the Shrek firms. And I want you to measure yourself against that with what we're doing on here. So whatever you think of your skills right now, in 2 years, I can guarantee you that providing you continually invest in your skill set and get more experience, you will think, God, did I not know anything at that point? Whatever you think of your skills, you are going to reflect back and think, fuck me, I was shit. And I thought I knew what I was doing then. This is classic for anyone in here that's ever been in management or has ever aspires to be a manager. You will think this after 2 years of being in management. You think, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing here. You know, you get promoted to manager, like, yeah, management's easy. And then 2 years you look back and go, fuck me, did I really say things like that? Did I really do things like that? What a dickhead. And then in 5 years' time, you're like, I didn't know anything 5 years ago. In 10 years' time, you're like, God, I really didn't know anything. And it's continuous from there. If you think about when you first joined this business, I know some people have only just joined, but when you first joined this business, 6 months in, you're thinking, I know how to source, I know how to find candidates, I know how to do a BD call, and you look back and you think, God, I was shit. Right? That is continuous. Continuous of how you feel and how you develop yourself. The biggest cause of underperformance is usually because somebody thinks they are better than they actually are. If you look at anything in sport, anyone, anywhere, you will recognize that they think they're better than they are. Zlatan is a good example of someone who thinks that they are better than where they are. They've got the track record, they're actually good at what they do, they're at the top level of their sport, but he thinks he's the best player in the world. He thinks he's better than Messi, he thinks he's better than Ronaldo. That may have prevented him from becoming the best, because if he always thought he was worse than them and he communicated that, he may have got put into that top three. Don't know enough about football to argue that, but definitely the perception that he gives off that he's the best. As soon as you communicate to somebody, I'm the best at this, I'm the best sourcer, I'm the best here, I want you to compare yourself to the Shrek firms. And I want you to think, if I'm sat in a room with somebody that has 30 years of experience at the top of their game, how good am I in comparison? If I'm sat next to somebody who's got 20 years of management experience and has been leading teams, growing business, built a team from X to Y, how good am I in comparison? Do you not think that all the candidates you speak to think that they can do the top job? They may be the CEOs that think they can do the top job. And then you speak to another CEO and you're like, God, that CEO wasn't very good. And you speak to one of your vice president investment directors. I spoke to a vice president who was like, I can do a partner job and that's why I want to move. Because I know that all they're doing is just making decisions. I was like, they're making the final call on an investment. And that's a fair call to make. But until you sat in that seat and had to make the call on whether or not you invest 30, 40, 50 million pounds of someone else's money, and if it all goes wrong, it's on you, that's a different decision. And when you've seen 30 different businesses already across your career and you've seen why things work and why things don't, you've then got that. Somebody who's made tons of mistakes across their career is going to be more valuable than someone who's never made a mistake, because they think that everything will come off for them. So the point of this conversation is, however good you think you are, and this is me included, if you compare yourself with the top of the industry, which is where most people want to get to, most people around this table want to earn a considerable amount of money. The average earner in the UK earns $35,000 a year. To be in the top 10%, I think, is 120, and to be in the top 5% is 200. Okay? It's a different, certainly a different challenge. So, the exercise that you can choose whether you do or not post this conversation is to reflect and look for the reasons of who could be better and who you could learn from. I think it was Ollie that said yesterday that there was a person that went to school with, and somebody who went to university that went to university with Sean Longstaff. Yeah? So that when university was on, and everyone knew that he was just miles ahead of everyone else at football. But imagine if you were the best footballer in your school, and you came up, and then you started playing against Sean Longstaff, and you're like, shit, this is the level of football. I know players that were, I wasn't very good at football, but there was people that were just phenomenal at football when I used to play, right? One of them was in the Leeds Academy. I don't know anybody that's made anything successful at sport. And this guy was, in my eyes, was amazing, right? But he was the shittest in the Leeds Academy. But he was the worst, but you think you're the best. You know, the top biller that I know of that as a fact is 5.6 million a year. Bills 5.6 million a year. That's more than this company turns over. That's more than most recruitment firms turn over in Leeds. 5.6 million a year. Biggest fee is 960,000. When you think of it like that, we're doing really great work here, and we're in the top end of Leeds with regards to fee sizes, but then you're like, we ain't even touching the surface yet. But if you only measure yourself against the pool that you're in and the people that you surround yourself in, then you think, I'm really, really good. And you are the average of the 5 people, which is my favourite quote, the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you are the top earner in that, you probably won't strive to earn much more. But if you are the poorest of your group and all the rest of your friends earn 120, 500, 200, right now 30, 50, 100, whatever, then you're like, I'm chasing to be part of them. Because when you go out and you go for a few beers, you go for a meal, they don't want to go to Nando's. They want to go to somewhere fancier, like our Bar and Grill, where you're spending at least 60 quid just on that. And you're like, I need to chase up there. So use that exercise. Look at some of the Shrek guys. They won't have huge profiles on there. They won't have loads and loads of information. But there's definitely information online of how you can improve who you are and where you're at. Harvey Specter's a good example of a fictitious individual, but oozes communication skills, gravitas, confidence, all those kind of areas that you may or may not need to improve. And you